Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology, and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com. Okay, so we're beaming to you live now using the new iPhone 14 Pro Max, or at least it's recording me today in 4K cinematic mode. Hopefully it works, and I'm not looking at you as if I'm blurred or something, but or whether there's some fuzzy edge detection around the sides. But it's an interesting experiment. So I did an unboxing, which I'll overlay that now, and it was quite good. I do quite like the space black color. They haven't done a properly black phone probably for a while. I think it was the iPhone 5 that had the last properly black phone, and obviously the 4 was iconic in that sense before. So, but it was good to have a new toy in the house to play with and all of that. I haven't used it for that long now, but I think, like we were saying before we got on, my two knocks on it really are just the lightning port. Why does it still have a lightning port? I don't know. Why didn't they upgrade the transfer speeds? I don't know. Very odd. So that and maybe just the weight of the thing, because I do notice that compared to my old 12 Pro Max, it's got a few more grams to it, shall we say?
I find the 13 standard 13 too heavy to carry around. Good luck with the Max.
Yeah, absolutely. Playing around with extra megapixels and whatnot. So having said that, we'll just stick with Apple for a little while longer before we get into our main topic. And I just wanted to explore the Apple Watch Ultra a little bit more. Now, the reason why I want to start this by saying that I was listening to a podcast and where they were talking about the Ultra, and they interviewed this long-distance runner. And again, forgive my ignorance to anyone that does, long-distance running or any sort of endurance-type activity. But this guy actually said that he had 4 different watches strapped to his wrists, presumably 2 on each hand, 2 on each arm, I'm guessing, when he did his runs, and that he couldn't trust any one particular watch, and that he had to collect all the data that he wanted to do whatever he needed to do with it afterwards. I don't know. And it obviously featured a component of this was how, if he was going to get the Ultra, how would that factor into the equation? And I guess maybe from a durability standpoint, a battery life standpoint, the Ultra probably would make sense in those kinds of use cases. And to be fair, Apple did heavily market the watch as for the people that were wanting to push it to the limit. So people that were in extreme environments, doing long distance marathons, people who I don't know, marathon in the desert, are in snowstorms, whatever it is. So it's not to say that the watch isn't, I might go, I'm not going to buy one, obviously, but I could go out and get one and just wear it on the regular, I guess, as well. Particularly as what I thought was interesting was that if you actually price up one of the regular Series 8 watches that was just released, it kind of starts getting into the ballpark figure of what the Ultra costs. So then you got to wonder what, maybe what suits best, in terms of that. The only thing, of course, is that it's a bit of a chunker for regular wearing in that sense.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting thing. I mean, Garmin, Fitbit, and increasingly Coros really sort of in the hardcore sports, particularly Garmin and Coros, endurance athletes. And some of these athletes do, wear 2, 3 watches, because if anything goes wrong, if you bump a dial or a button or something, you could lose all your data if your watch packs up. And between Garmin and Coros, there's a whole range of watches, from the simple Pace 2, which I wear, right through to, I think, the Vertex in the Coros, and the Garmin's got Fenix or something like that. And they're high-grade watches you can hit with hammers, jump out of planes with, and not pull a chute, and the watch will still be working even if you're not. So, amazing stuff, and the data they collect is incredible. Like the granularity you can get during a workout, oxygen levels, VO2 max, pace, just about everything is really outstanding. And Apple Watches have been outstanding with their sort of health monitoring capability over the duration, actually. Um, However, they haven't really been marketed towards sport. They've been really more marketed towards the iPhone user as a complement. So this is them, I think, just trying to protect some market share, carve a new niche, and sell a new watch. And for me, it's very iOS. So the choice to buy an Apple Sport watch basically, is very much linked to your phone and your relationship with iOS. Whereas if you go a Garmin or a Coros, you're really opening up your world, if you ask me, in terms of the apps you can use and the environment you can work with. And both Coros and Garmin, of course, work very well with Android. So you get a little bit of choice. If you swap your iPhone, you're going to have to swap your Apple Watch. So, but look, I've got no doubt it's a great watch, a strong watch, and probably does everything it says on the box, because the technology now you can wear on your wrist is nothing short of amazing.
One other thing that made me think about this is that, they're probably going after Garmin's and Target markets like that, but also made me wonder whether it was a ploy to renew interest in the Apple Watch itself, because it flew under the radar a bit, but the Series 8 that was released, the regular Series 8, is actually not that much different to the Series 7, which is not that much different to the Series 6, which is not that much different to the Series 5. And it made me wonder whether or not they've actually hit a wall with the standard watch, and they needed something to, a marketing hook to say, look, we've got this other watch too.
Oh, Ben, I think you might be talking about the whole of Apple's mobile range. I mean, excluding the MacBook, there's a lot of similarities. I mean, how different is the iPhone 14 from the 12, or even whatever iPad we're up to the iPads before? There's only so much you can ask a watch to do. And then at that point, you really can't ask it to do much more. And I think that goes for the phones at the moment and the tablets. What more can we ask them to do for the moment? I think the question is, or the answer is, not much more. You can ask them to do it better, incremental improvements, but you're not going to get any showstoppers, not for the foreseeable future.
Absolutely. All right, so moving away from Apple and going into some more generalized tech trends, which I would probably broadly describe this as tech trends that may be flying under the radar, but are actually generating a lot of interest, particularly with venture capital and whatnot. I think we've kind of touched on a couple of these in previous episodes, but it's kind of the idea of tech that will suddenly start appearing and making our lives a whole lot easier. We don't have time to go through all of them, but to start with, if you think of like the first one that was in this article here about next level process automation and virtualization, which doesn't exactly sound, a well-marketed type of line to put, but in this we're talking about robotics, Internet of Things, digital twins, which was spoken about before, 3D and 4D printing, all combining to streamline a whole bunch of routine tasks, which would improve operational efficiency and approach time to market for big organizations and corporations making various bits and pieces in terms of the products that they produce. And it's quite interesting that much is said of, I guess as consumers, we'll see the latest flashy gadget and use that as a benchmark for the progress of technology, when actually there's a whole lot of things going on, almost like the supply chains, everything that makes society run and work is actually going to be, we could be seeing big improvements in this area. And that it might just suddenly start appearing over time. And before we know it, it's like, oh, wow, this is all here. It's a bit like, I guess, how the internet has turned into what it is now. Like you have access to information at any time that you need it. Whereas you can imagine, pre-2010, yes, you did have access to it, but it would be through a computer when you sat down at one. Now it's in your pocket all the time. And it's that type of thing that sneaks up on you, or sneaks up on all of us, that is interesting with this type of technological advancement.
Oh, totally. And I think if you look through this list, and it's a great list, by the way, and a really good site to visit and get your head around what these trends are, but you could sum them up very much as new systems, new processes, and new materials. So, new systems are data, automation, and control of automated systems. Anything like that, obviously has the ability to change our world. Everything through IoT networks and control of things like driverless cars, you know, transport, logistics, you name it. That robots. It's all falls into that category. Then you've got new processes, and that's where we're changing the way we've done things, such as within energy and resources, where now we're using different sorts of minerals, critical minerals for batteries. We're changing over to renewable sources of energy from fossil fuels. We're also making things different ways, additive manufacturing, for instance, 3 and 4D printing. So they're the new processes and new chemical processes in the way we produce things. And then we have new materials at the end, which is probably, I think, something that's really radically going to change our lives, because this will be us making new substances for the world around us, whether it's the equivalent to what touch screens have done in the last 15 years. It'll be new materials for batteries. It's new materials for capturing solar power. It's new materials for health and medicine, dental implants, hearts, arteries, you name it, bits of brain. And it's also new ways of packaging and manufacturing. Things that we've once again traditionally made out of fossil fuels will make from new materials, literally. So it's very exciting. I'd encourage everyone to have a click on that link and a bit of a read about it, because these things are going to have huge impacts in our world over the next 10 years. And for those who are feeling a little bit nervous about climate change and feeling like we're not doing enough globally, I think these technologies, which didn't exist 5 years ago and didn't exist 10 years ago, are the technologies that will be able to mitigate and help us move away from damaging our environment.
Absolutely. The link's at weforum.org. So, and I might see if I can chuck it into the description on the YouTube video anyway. It's well worth checking out. And there was just one other one that I wanted to touch on. Again, like, it's a fairly lengthy article and there's a whole lot in there, but one that I wanted to circle back to was, the approach of quantum computing, which is one of the trends that they advise there. And as we go along, computers at the moment are quite amazing. We're carrying them around in our pockets, not just on our desks or in laptops or whatever. But this type of next generation computing is with quantum computing, when we get there, is going to be pretty incredible, and is going to really blow our minds in terms of integration and speed, and almost I kind of get the impression of it all being supremely effortless in terms of being able to deal with it in its I'm sure it's not effortless to construct and to actually design in the first place, but once it's working as the end user, that it would almost be a part of life. You could argue that current computers are like that as well, but I think there's still a separation. It's a device that you can put down, and although they're relatively quick, etc., but this could be really, really thoroughly integrated into every sort of aspect of life that it almost is a part of it, as opposed to just being a thing that you pick up.
Well, yes, computing is going to go down a whole different range of paths in the future, and that fits in line with new systems, new processes, and new materials. We'll be making the hardware out of different materials. For quantum computing, you use different materials to a silicon chip. In the more traditional computing, we've already seen Apple at the forefront with the M1 chips, and you've got neural chips, and you've got separate cores for different things, all on the one chip. Computing will become a lot more specific. Chips themselves will have individual purposes as sensors, not just as a computing component. merely for calculations. And we will, now be seeing these technologies develop for individual purposes. So it won't be the same as just getting any old motherboard and like an Arduino and programming it specifically to do a task. The chip will come with that task already embedded on it, because we can mass produce specific tasks on a chip now much more quickly with technologies that we've not had access to before. And that will be something that will radically change our world.
Absolutely, almost like another type of industrial revolution, for lack of a better term. Although it won't be industrial, it'll be technological in a sense.
It'll be the fifth wave for sure.
Absolutely, exciting times. Maybe we'll see it at some point in the next little while. It'll be fascinating to see, and it'll be like the realm of science fiction becoming reality.
If only.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we might wrap it up there. So don't forget to check out our website, SciTechCulture.com. You can get access to our links and content there. You can subscribe to our YouTube and Vimeo channels, RSS feeds, and watch us on any and all of your devices. And we greatly appreciate your visits to our website and checking out our channels and various pieces of content. All right, so that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.